My name is Melissa Reynolds, and I live in the quiet suburbs of Portland, Oregon. For years, I played the role of the loyal wife, the devoted homemaker, and the doting mother. From the outside, our family looked like the perfect picture. Me, my husband Daniel, and our teenage son, Ethan. We had a cozy home, a friendly neighborhood, and the kind of life that many would envy. But behind the white picket fence and smiling holiday cards, there were cracks forming, slowly and painfully. I had been married to Daniel for over 16 years. He was charming when we met, funny, ambitious, and quick to win over anyone he met. But over time, something in him changed. Maybe it was the pressure from work, or the distance that slowly crept in as our priorities shifted, but he became someone I barely recognized. He grew colder, more distant. Conversations turned into arguments, and arguments turned into silence. What hurt the most wasn't even the words, it was the growing absence of them. Then, one night, everything came crashing down. I was folding laundry in the living room when Daniel came home late. His tie was crooked, and he smelled like cologne I didn't wear. My heart knew before my mind caught up. He tried to sneak past me, but I stood up and asked the question that had haunted me for months. Is there someone else? He didn't answer. That silence was all I needed. I don't remember yelling. I don't remember crying. I just remember standing there, staring at a man I no longer knew, and telling him to leave. He tried to argue, to twist the narrative, to make me doubt myself. But I had spent too many nights alone already. I didn't want to spend another. When the door shut behind him, the house felt quieter than ever. Ethan was away on a weekend school trip. He was 16 then, growing taller every day, with his father's jawline but his own quiet temperament. He didn't know what had happened when he came home 2 days later. He found me sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red, sipping lukewarm tea. "Where's Dad?" he asked, dropping his backpack. I didn't want to make him choose sides. I didn't want him to feel caught in the middle of adult problems. So I answered truthfully, and simply. I asked him to leave. Ethan stared at me, unsure what to say. I braced for anger or blame. But instead, he just walked over and hugged me. Tightly. Quietly. That hug said everything. I'm here. I understand. And I'm not going anywhere. The days that followed were hard. I didn't sleep much. I barely ate. I tried to distract myself with chores, bills, anything to avoid sitting alone with my thoughts. Daniel didn't call, and I didn't want him to. Some nights, I would lie in bed wondering if I made the right decision. The silence was loud, the loneliness louder. But then there was Ethan. Without saying it, he started picking up the slack around the house. He'd take out the trash, cook simple dinners, even clean up without being asked. He didn't ask me if I was okay every day, but he showed me that he noticed, that he cared. And somehow, that mattered more than words. One Saturday morning, I was sitting on the back porch, wrapped in a sweater and staring at the garden Daniel never helped me plant. Ethan came out with 2 mugs of hot cocoa. He handed me one, sat beside me, and just said, "You did what you had to do." It was the first time I cried in front of him. "I just didn't want you to feel ashamed," I said between tears. "I didn't want to be the mom who broke our home." He looked at me, his brown eyes steady and wise beyond his years. "You didn't break it, Mom. You saved it." From that moment on, I stopped carrying guilt on my shoulders. Weeks turned into months. I went back to work part-time at the local bookstore, something I had put on hold years ago. The familiar scent of ink and paper gave me comfort. I began reconnecting with old friends, attending local community events, and even joining a weekend yoga group. Slowly, I felt like I was rediscovering myself, not as a wife, but as Melissa. Ethan started applying for colleges. He had always been passionate about environmental science and wanted to study at a university in Washington. Every now and then, we'd stay up late at the kitchen table, reviewing applications, drafting essays, and laughing about how expensive everything had become. There was a bond between us that had strengthened not because of shared grief, but shared growth. We didn't tiptoe around the past, but we didn't let it define us either. Daniel tried to reach out once. He emailed me 6 months after the separation. It was a vague message, half apology, half nostalgia. I didn't respond. Not because I hated him, but because I didn't need to hear excuses anymore. I had made peace with the fact that some people are only meant to be chapters in our book, not the whole story. One day, while packing away some of Daniel's old things, I found a box of memories. Photos, letters, ticket stubs from when we were young and in love. I smiled at the good times and let the bad ones float away. Then I taped the box shut and set it by the door. It was part of the past, and I was ready to move on. Ethan's graduation came in June. I sat in the audience, clapping and cheering as he crossed the stage. He spotted me and gave a small wave, and I felt an overwhelming surge of pride. Not just for him, but for us. For making it through the hardest storm without losing ourselves. After the ceremony, we had dinner at our favorite local diner. Between bites of pancakes and sips of chocolate milkshake, Ethan looked at me and said, "I wouldn't be who I am without you." I laughed. "You would have been just fine." "No," he insisted. "You showed me what strength looks like. What grace looks like. You didn't let him break you." I held back tears. "I was scared you'd hate me." He smiled. "I never even considered it." That night, as I lay in bed, I realized I wasn't lonely anymore. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling unseen, unheard. But with Ethan, I had always been seen. I had always been enough. Now, a year later, I sit at the same porch where Ethan brought me cocoa, watching the same garden bloom with fresh daisies and sunflowers. He's in college now, calls every Sunday, and texts more than I expected. The house is quiet again, but this time, it doesn't ache. It breathes. I've started painting again, something I hadn't done in years. I even held a small art show at the community center. People came. They smiled. They asked questions. They connected. Life isn't always about perfect endings. Sometimes, it's about brave beginnings. I was lonely after I kicked my husband out, yes. But my son, he didn't shame me. He held me up when I couldn't stand, and because of him, I remembered who I was. Strong. Capable. Whole.